International Conference. I hope you are not too tired after 2 full days of inputs and food for your brain, but I'm pretty sure that the current session too will provide you with interesting facts and suggestions related to the combo digital skills and language teachers. This last session holds the multiplayer event of European projects, which is the DC4LT European project, where DC4LT stands for Digital Competencies for Language Teachers. And this last session is composed by 3 different and separate speeches. The first one, which is DC4LT European project aims and results, which will be held by me, Antonio Giordano from Pixel. The second one, which is DC4LT Digital Competence Assessment Framework for Language Teachers and Training Model, which will be held by Maria Perifano from University of Macedonia, Greece, Maria Victoria Sule and Ellis Kapouli Konstantinou from Cyprus University of Technology. And the last presentation, which will be teaching online in virtual reality during the pandemic, which will be held on site by Ekaterina Prasova Forland from Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Let's start with the first speech, which will be held by me. I'm Antonio Giordano and I work for Pixel. I got a degree in foreign languages, which is maybe the main and first reason why I was immediately interested and involved in this European project, in the DC4LT European project. And in the next few minutes, I will present the project itself and above all, the outputs that we produced in the last 3 years, as the project will be over in less than 2 months. The European project entitled Digital Competencies for Language Teachers was written and coordinated by the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, based in Trondheim, and involves the following partners: University of Macedonia in Greece, Cyprus University of Technology, Cyprus, ITMO University, Russia, and Pixel, Italy. The project was funded by the European Commission in the framework of the Erasmus Plus program, strategic partnership in the field of higher education. The DC4LT European project aims at empowering EU language teachers with digital competencies to facilitate online teaching to a worldwide audience. In particular, the DC4LT project aims at fostering sustainable integration of digital technology in language learning, facilitating language teachers to become professional online or blended tutors, guiding language teachers in a critical use of digital resources and tools, facilitating communities of language teachers. The first output that we produced within the project is the analytical report entitled after Digital Competencies in Language Education, Teachers' Perspectives, Employers' Expectation, and Policy Reflections. You know, when you are asked to reach some results within a specific topic, the starting point would be having a clear picture of the topic you are dealing with. The report informs about the state of digital skills in the language teaching, and aims to raise awareness about the topic for better decisions in educational policies and in the implementation of these policies. The analytical report is made up of 3 main parts: a review of European and selected national related policies related to the digital skills of language teachers, job market study for language teachers, digital competence assessment survey for language teachers. Review of European and selected national policies related to the digital skills of language teachers. So first of all, within the reports, we present a review of European and selected national policies related to the digital skills of language teachers. I would mainly mention 2 of the documents that we analyzed. The Europe 2020 strategy, according to which I will quote directly from the report, digital technologies are enablers of a step change in learning and teaching practice. However, they do not guarantee it. To consolidate progress and to ensure scale and sustainability, education institutions need to review their organizational strategies in order to enhance their capacity for innovation and to exploit the full potential of digital technologies and content. The second document I would like to mention is the Shaping Europe Digital Future document, which was published in February 2020. According to the document, digital technologies are profoundly changing our daily life, our way of working and doing business, and the way people travel, communicate, and relate with each other. Digital communication, social media interaction, e-commerce, and digital enterprises are transforming our worlds. I would like to focus the dates in which the document was produced and published, February 2020, just a few days before the pandemic, and we can just imagine how the situation has completely changed with a greater interest towards the digital skills, the digital future, and all the tools that can be used within education related to information communication technologies. Moving from the macro European area to a lower level, I want to specifically mention the national policies that we underline within the country, which are partners of the project. But there are some recurrent elements in how digital education is managed and improved, for example, in Norway, Russia, Cyprus, Greece, and Italy. So if on one hand we have, at least within the official documents, strong echo at national level about digital education, national policies aiming at developing digital education, on the other hand, the reality is made up of digitalization strategy connected to single institutions and persons initiative, rarely sufficient teachers training, lack of adequate information and technology resources and infrastructures, and lags between the EU average and national results in terms of investments in the education and digitalization. If then we move to what happens for the language teachers, so with a specific reference to this specific area, the main interventions which are indicated as crucial within national policies are seeking the involvement of external experts in education and training, providing updates like OERs, MOOCs, and so on for language teachers, providing laboratories and workshops with modern technologies, and linking curricula to the needs of the labor markets. Within the first intellectual output, there is also a specific section which is addressed to a job market study for language teachers. So, going back to what I said before, linking curricula to the needs of the labor market. Is that real? Even more, how does the language teachers' labor market look like today? And when I mean today, it was 2 years ago, and we can imagine how the situation would be completely changed now. Are digital skills taken into account while looking for a language teacher? So the report presents the results of a job market which was made within the by the partnership of the projects, and the study was conducted in 11 countries to check if the policies in digitalization and education have a direct impact on language teaching jobs. Which has been the strategy we have been using for this market study, as the objective was to analyze the needs of the education markets. We identified in the available job announcement the best tool to understand whether the emerging needs, availability of digital skills and competencies by language teachers are taken into account while looking for a language teacher. Are they taken into account or not? Concretely, do the job announcements looking for language teachers mention those digital skills which seem to be mandatory today? Once again, the expected answer would have been yes, but the reality went beyond our expectation. We have been opening, analyzing, and carefully reading more than 850 job announcements for language teachers in 11 different countries. And let's see the results of these job markets. The percentage in which the required digital skills are recurring in the job announcement can help defining a more organic state of art and setting recurring standards. Almost 85% of the job announcement for language teachers do not require digital skills. And this is quite a pity if we consider the amount of possibilities which are offered while teaching by modern technologies and all the different tools that we have right now. 50% of the job announcements mention digital skills as an essential requirement for language teachers. But within and out of these 50%, 9% of the job announcement which ask for digital skills, they mention generic digital skills like good ICT competencies, good ICT skills, confident users of modern technologies and business software, skilled user of laptop, webcam, and internet, familiarity with new technologies. 4% of the job announcement which ask for digital skills, they refer to, I would say, old-fashioned digital skills. Strong skills in PowerPoint. In 2021, they are looking for typing speeds. Okay, only 2% of the job announcements which mention the digital skills, only 2% of them refer to specific and updated digital skills. And when specific and updated digital skills are required, anyway, they are not mandatory within these job announcements. So digital competence and multilingualism have been acknowledged as key skills by European Union. Despite this, as shown by the market study, most language teachers lack sufficient digital skills and they cannot use all available digital tools to advance their teaching practices and their professional development. They cannot reach all potential students and teach anywhere and anytime. There is obviously an individual responsibility in this, but apart from the individual responsibility, I would say that the conclusion that we reached within this job market is that there is a wider responsibility across government and businesses in terms of making learning and education system accessible, efficient, and relevant. There is a need for digital skills by any teacher, language teachers above all, to be better integrated in formal education and lifelong learning opportunities in order to provide citizens with the tools they need to succeed in their everyday life and career. The third part within the first intellectual output was a survey, digital competence assessment survey for language teachers. So the survey that we did was mainly addressed to language teachers and aimed at understanding how language teachers use digital technologies, their attitude towards these technologies, their related skills and competencies, their satisfaction and required improvement, and the institutional support they receive while doing their job as language teacher and using digital skills. What we aimed to find out within this survey: what instructional models do language teachers use in computer-supported language learning? What attitudes do language teachers have towards the use of digital technology? How do language teachers assess their digital competence level? How satisfied are language teachers with their level of digital competencies and what are their training needs? And what do language teachers think of the institutional aiding personal and professional development towards digital competencies? Two groups of respondents participated in the survey. 91% of them were language teachers, while 9% of them were administrators or policymakers working in language learning. So they have been asked to reply to 48 questions, which have been structured in 8 different topics: personal and professional backgrounds, level of teaching, language learning instructional models, attitude towards digital technology in language teaching, competencies in digital language teaching, satisfaction with digital competencies training and required improvements, institutional support for enhancing digital competencies, institutional aid for personal development towards digital competencies. Those are the results that we reached thanks to this survey. 71% of teachers are not satisfied with the level of digital language teaching expertise. 95% of teachers can improve their digital language teaching expertise by participating in an external digital literacy training program. Language teachers require training to use methodologies like problem-based language learning, collaborative knowledge building, inquiry-based language learning, and so on. Language teachers believe that experience exchange is the most effective format to improve digital literacy. So the teachers who responded to the survey described themselves as intermediate in using digital technologies rather than experts. More than 2/3 of the teachers are not satisfied, so 71%, with their level of digital learning, and 95, I would underline this number, 95% of them believe they can improve their digital language teaching expertise. Employers of approximately half of the language teachers organize training for advancing digital skills, but 2/3 of respondents who receive such training at their organization report that the training session happened not in a regular way or on a regular basis. At the same time, the majority of the teachers describe the training as their employing organization as effective. So it is a further proof that when a training is organized, it is conceived as an effective one. These are the results that we reached by the first intellectual output of the DC4LT project, which was mainly developed during the first years of the project life cycle, 2018 and 2018. It was just a few years ago, but the impression is that now we live in a completely different reality. The reason is mainly to be attributed to COVID-19 pandemic, because during this pandemic, we understood our education has changed dramatically with the distinctive rise of e-learning. Teaching is undertaken remotely and on digital platforms. Online learning has been shown to increase retention of information and take less time, meaning the changes coronavirus have caused might be here to stay. These are some of the consequences COVID-19 pandemic brought to education. Are the premises we had in our mind while formulating the question for the survey still valid? And even more, following what happened in the last 2 years, would teachers reply to the question the same way as they did, or today their replies would be completely different? We have been thinking about that, and we have been discussing internally, and in the end we decided to start a second survey, which has been defined as pandemic survey, to understand the difference between now and what happened 2 years ago. So I would kindly suggest you to go on the DC4LT website. You will find the link to the survey. So I invite you all to take the survey and to invite your colleagues to take the survey, because on the basis of the results, we will produce guidelines and tools to help teachers to efficiently use available technologies in their blended and online language teaching. So again, I would invite you to take the survey. This would be my personal homework for you as soon as we finish this session of the conference. And this is the homework before leaving the floor to my colleagues, who will focus on other results that we reached within the DC4LT project. First of all, is there any question? Okay, so we can move to the following speech.
Maybe I can ask.
Yes, please.
So what kind of digital skills are actually meant? Because the digital technologies are changing so quickly. We got a lot of new applications which did not exist a year ago, but now the scope is huge, like Clubhouse, for example. So what is actually meant under digital skills?
Okay, as we notice these emerging needs for digital skills by language teachers, we have been analyzing whatever falls within the umbrella of digital skills, and we have been checking all the possible tools which can be used by language teachers in their daily practice as teachers, and this is what will be mentioned by my colleagues immediately after. So to reply to your question, my colleague will show what we did in terms of what is meant within digital skills. And even I think it would be important also to underline what can be used by language teachers in order to use digital technologies in their classroom. So we will go to this thanks to my colleagues. And the next speaker should be, I think, Maria Perifano. Maria, are you there? Because the conference is hybrid, but also this multiplayer event is hybrid because there is me, there is Caterina, but there are also some online participants. Okay, we can't hear you. We will try to solve this. Can you try?
Good evening, everyone.
We can listen to Alice, not to Maria.
Thank you for your presentation, Antonio.
You're welcome. We still don't hear Maria. No.
We cannot hear you, Maria.
Alice, is it okay if you start the presentation?
I think Maria would like to talk about the first part because this is her her own work in the project. But I could introduce myself if you like. We're very happy, first of all, to be here with you today, my colleague and I. And my name is Elis Kakouli Konstantinou. I work at the Language Center of the Cyprus University of Technology. I am an English language instructor, and I'm also a teacher training at Cyprus University of Technology and also at the Ministry of Education in Cyprus. Our presentation today is titled DC4LT Digital Competence Assessment Framework for Language Teachers and Training Model. So basically, we are going to take it from where Antonio has left us today. We're going to talk to you about what we did in the second and third intellectual outputs. Basically, in the second intellectual output, we developed a framework, the digital competence assessment framework, in order to, which can be used basically in order to measure the literacy, the digital competence, let's say, of language teachers. And then based on that, we proceeded with the development of a training model, the aim of which was to, let's say, develop the digital competence of language teachers. And that training model was actually based on the survey that Antonio talked to you about. So basically a thorough needs analysis of language teachers in different parts of the world in terms of digital literacies, and also on the framework, on the digital competence assessment framework that we developed in the intellectual output number 2. So I don't know if Maria is with us and if her sound is okay now. Not yet.
Now she disappeared completely. So we couldn't hear her, now we can't see her, which is even worse.
Okay, I think she's trying to connect. Perhaps I could start with the a little bit with the content of the presentation. So perhaps you could move on to the next slide, Antonio, until she joins us.
I make you off so that you can move towards the slide as you wish.
Okay.
You are presenter right now, so you have got the power. Please.
So I should just share my screen with the people?
Because the presentation is there. You can just go to the arrows and move to the following slide.
Okay. All right. I see. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
So that's the presentation outline, everyone. We're going to start with an introduction. And first of all, we're going to define digital literacy, see what digital literacy is all about. And then we're going to refer to the research methodology that we followed in our project. And then we're going to move on to the assessment framework and this tool that we develop in the second, intellectual output. And eventually we're going to talk about the training model and the workshops that we delivered. And finally, we're going to conclude with some conclusions. I believe that Maria is with us and she can take the floor. Hi, Maria.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so you can take it from there.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very, very much.
Now you are
okay, I can change the slides. Can
yes.
I? Okay, yes. Wonderful. So, hello to everyone. Good afternoon. My name, let me introduce myself because you just saw me, but I disappeared. So here I am again. My name is Maria Perifano. I am a senior researcher and I work for the Smart and Mobile Interactive Lab of the University of Macedonia, Thessaloniki, that it is located in the northern part of Greece. I'm also an adjunct professor at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, the Department of Italian Language Studies, and at the Hellenic Open University in TESOL Master Program teaching topics related to coal. So as my colleague introduced before and explained, we will discuss about our work here. So let me start. Let's see. Let's start with defining what digital literacy is. So in the age of digitalization, there is a growing need for teachers to acquire new sets of skills and competencies in order to face the new digital challenges that they encounter in their work and in their daily life. In fact, according to EU Digital Agenda, digital literacy is one of its 7 pillars, while the Council of Europe defines digital competence as one of the 8 key competencies of lifelong learning needed in the 21st century, and its development should be perceived within the idea of lifelong learning. The OECD report of 2009 also expressed the big need not only to integrate ICT into schools' curricula, but also to invest in training teachers to use them for teaching and to help students learn. Digital competence is a highly important competence for all teachers and especially for language teachers. Teaching languages online is different from teaching other subjects online because it entails different skills, such as the creation of highly interactive language environment that could address the language practice needs of language learners. But what do we define? As digital literacy? Let's see. Is this the only term used to describe the skills needed for using digital technology? The concept of digital literacy or competence is a multifaceted moving target, as it is still interpreted in various ways in policy documents, academic literature, and teaching and learning and certification practices and educational reports. So we can hear so many times different, let's say, definition like digital literacy or literacies, digital literacy skills, technology skills, or technology literacy, 21st century skills, ICT practitioner skills. So let's see how digital literacy and digital competence are defined. As you see here, Newman proposes looking at digital literacy as the use of critical thinking skills in the context of technology use. According to this, reading digital literacy can be understood as requiring both technical skills and critical thinking skills. In this diagram, critical thinking skills are seen as an attribute of information literacy. In the review, Newman clarifies that the focus is more on thinking rather than technical skills, and in fact, in the review, information literacy is sometimes used as a synonym for digital literacy. According to Alain Mutka, 2011, as we see here in this diagram, the diagram shows that internet literacy, ICT literacy, and media literacy, and as well as information literacy, are partially overlapping with what we can call here digital literacy. All the above mentioned literacies contain a digital component And in return, digital literacy is enriched by the new means and tools derived from technological assurance and convergence. Let's see what Ferrari, how the Ferrari defines digital competence. And this is, let's say, the definition that we adapted for our project. Digital competence is seen as a set of knowledge, skills, attitude, thus including abilities, strategies, values, and awareness that are required when using ICT and digital media to perform tasks, solve problems, communicate, manage information, collaborate, create and share content, build knowledge effectively, efficiently, appropriately, critically. You can see how this description is really detailed and can show to us that there are many, many things that we should have in mind when we define digital competence. So the majority of frameworks that are based on skills development and on the ability to use a specific set of tools and or applications. As the above definition highlights, skills are only part of the learning domains that are included in digital competence, and the ability to use specific tools or applications is just one of the several competence areas that need to be developed by users in order to function in a digital environment. So, in other words, in plain words, digital competence is not, let's say, related so much with the tools. It is a whole area of other, let's say, skills and knowledge that we need to be aware, and knowledge that we need to things that we need to know, and then skills that will, and then we need to acquire skills, and with these skills we will be able to do all these things that we know in theory. So theory and practice together, but we also think and we will analyze the different topics and thematics. So what we did with our team, the Digital Competence for Language Teachers team, is that we did, let's say in the framework of our project, we conducted a research which aimed at defining, first of all, the profile of the digital competent language teacher and at facilitating language teachers' digital self-assessment. As Antonio said before, the project started officially in September 2018, before the pandemic crisis. It is still in progress. Let's see now here the research aims. So first we wanted to define how to define the digitally competent language teacher. Then we wanted to design a framework that could describe the digital competencies for language teachers. As well, we wanted to develop a self-assessment tool that will be based to the framework so that every language teacher could take this test and self-assess himself or herself. And then we wanted to, based on all the feedback that we got from all these research steps, we wanted to design a training model in order to organize and support our training workshops that we organize, and Alice will discuss about that. We organize in the series in the context of our project, and in our, let's say, schedule is to organize 3 series of training sessions. So I am continuing here to show a little bit the phases. So first of all, we did this needs analysis and DC14 needs analysis survey, and Antonio discussed about that. The second phase is the literature review. So in order to see and to define, let's say, how we will design the DC4LT assessment framework and tool, we conducted a literature review, and then we developed the tool and the framework and the tool, and in next, as you see here, we have the training sessions and the model. So I continue. Okay. basically, as I said before, let me go here. From the results, we can see that the DC4LT assessment framework was designed based on the feedback received from the data, as I said, that were collected during the first phase of the research. And as we see here, what we find out was that there is a gap in language teachers' continuous professional development, a lack of language teachers' confidence in using ICT, lack of technical infrastructure in most of the cases, and the growing need for language teachers' training of the use of emerging technologies and innovative pedagogies. So let's see here a few things about teacher needs for continuous professional development. The systematic literature review on digital competence frameworks and tools has shown that there is a variety of digital frameworks proposed by official organizations and researchers. But it is important to show here that there is a research that has a duration of more than 10 years, in which we see here, for example, those reports, the Education and Training Monitor of 2016. All these reports reflect this problem for continuous professional development in ICT. So even though there is an effort from the European Union to provide training opportunities to language teachers, there is still a big gap, and this is justified and this is presented in all these reports that we came across in the context of our research. So as you see here from the survey of 2013 and 2019, more or less what we found out is that the needs are more or less the same, even though there is let's say this, we can see that after so many years, the percentage of EU, for example, schools that lack the appropriate infrastructure, more or less was the same after many years as well. So as you see here also in 2019, we have a number of pedagogy-related obstacles, lack of adequate skills for teachers, insufficient technical support for teachers, lack of adequate content material for teaching. So it's not only one, but it's a number of different obstacles that, let's say, teachers need to overcome. And of course, schools and the policies need to support them in this. So here I'm just show you here what we have found. The results of this literature review was to find more than more or less 25 different digital frameworks for teachers, generally speaking, not only targeted to language teachers. And those are just a few examples, as you see here. There is a variety of digital frameworks. And this one, the first one is the DigiComp Edu framework offered by the European Commission and the Joint Research Center. The Professional Digital Competence Framework for Teachers offered by the Norwegian Center for ICT in Education, and the Teachers ICT Competence Framework for Teachers by UNESCO. This is not the, there are 2 editions by this. And as far as digital frameworks for language teachers are concerned, we found not so many, only more or less 3. So 3, 4 that were really good, and we would like to also to propose them, to recommend them. As you see here, we have, for example, the Cambridge Teachers English Digital Framework for Languages. This is a very nice also a website that offers different services. You can take a digital test here as well, but you can find also a set of tools that are very nice to practice. And this is good. You can explore it. Another one is the TESOL Technology Standards Framework. That is also very, very good. And the EQUAS, a framework for language teacher training and development, that it is not fully targeted to digital skills, but it has an overview of the skills that language teachers should acquire. And one of these, let's say, skills is also the digital skill. So let me say a few things about the framework and the tool that we have done. The DC4LT assessment framework was inspired by previous research which was conducted in the area, such as the framework for online language teaching skills by Compton, the Equals framework, the Common European Framework of Reference of Languages, the European Framework for Digital Competence of Educators, and the Cambridge English Digital Framework for Language Teachers. The three levels, let me change my slide. The three levels of proficiency progression for language teachers' digital competencies profile were also inspired by Bloom's taxonomy, which explains the subsequent cognitive stages of any learning progress, from remembering and understanding to applying and analyzing, and finally to evaluating and creating. The main aims of the DC4LT assessment framework were first to identify the key components needed in order to carefully design an assessment framework that could address the digital skills needed to be acquired by language teachers. And to that end, the framework promotes a new set of skills pyramid of 3 levels of difficulty. So here you can see the novice, the first level, but as you see here, we have the novice, the proficient, the expert. And in the first levels, we describe that language teachers at this level are competent replicators. They can assimilate new information and develop basic digital practices. In the next level, we define that language teachers at this level are aware practitioners. They can apply, further expand, and reflect on their digital practices. And then in the next level, the third one, we have language teachers that are expert facilitators. They can pass on their knowledge, critique existing practice, and develop new practices. I'm sure that now after COVID, we are more or less, most of you are proficient or experts after this experience of all these months. What we wanted to underline is that it is important to understand that there is a theory, as I said before, and there is a theory that we need to understand, and then we need to and then we need to put in practice all this theory in order to have the abilities and to name them as skills. So here you can see, as you see here, the main components of the DC4LT assessment framework conclude 6 main categories, and their subcategories, the thematic areas that we will see in a while. The 6 main categories are the following: technology, pedagogy, assessment, content, professional development, and learner support. And each category includes a set of 5 concrete subcategories. Here, as you see, from the most basic to the most advanced, the knowledge and skills that language needs to acquire in order to be able to cope with the professional digital challenges. I'm showing you this one so we can see the thematics of the different categories. So for us, we did, let's say, all this research, but we also got feedback from other colleagues during our training workshops. So we just wanted to see and to, in a way, explore the needs. We got the feedback from the needs analysis surveys, from our literature review, analysis and also from the feedback that we got, as I said, from the training. And we come up with these 6 different categories. And as you see here, for each category, there are different topics. For example, technology, you can see digital tools and devices, or for example, net ticket ethics and security issues. But you see, what we need to know and what we need to deal with are not related only, they're not issues related only to technology, but we need to be able, for example, to know how to assess, to do the online assessment, or we need to know, for example, how to create, how to search, how to create open educational resources, how to reuse them and how we can share them. So create digital content, or we need as language teachers to be able to know where we will go and find opportunities for professional development. Or we need also to be able to guide our learners how we can do it. So what we did, in fact, is things are organized, and in each, let's say, category, here we can see an example. So we have the theory, what do we need to know? This is, for example, about the novice, the first level. What is the knowledge? The basic traits of software devices that is needed for administration or organizational communication with colleagues and learners. So this is the description. And then we have a set of description here of skills. So I have the ability to work on word processing worksheets. So I have the ability to follow menus to operate software. So those are the basic digital skills in that I show you this example. But what we did is what you see here. This is the tool, and the tool has these different components, and each of these components comprises of a set of questions where they have this format of I do, the statement of I do, I know, I can do. So taking each, you can see these different components, and for each different component, you can take a different test. So 6 tests in total, in order to get the final, let's say, score to see and to be able to assess your digital skills. So I continue and then pass the word to my colleague, where Alice, she will describe the 4th phase, that is for the training model sessions. So,
okay,
thank
you, Maria. We'll try to be really quick and talk to you about what we did. No worries, Antonio. I know we are out of time, so really, really quickly. So basically, after the development of this digital competence assessment framework and the tool, we developed this training model. The training model was basically based on the survey that we did, on the needs analysis, on the framework and the tool, and on a literature review that we conducted, which basically gave us the following result. That training, let's say, model should be based on connectivism, on social constructionism, and the ecological theory, which you can see here. And some methodological recommendations could be game-based learning, problem-based learning, virtual exchange. Those were considered to be among the best ones that we could use. And finally, some recommendations that we came up with were the following: that such training workshop could be designed on opportunities for networking, development of communities of practice, construction of knowledge, interaction, playful interaction, collaborative problem solving, and intercultural and collaborative projects. So basically, the training workshop consisted of 12 units, interactive sessions. Basically, our target audience was basically language teachers that wanted to develop their digital competence, and we had 6 learning objectives, which were drawn from the 6 broader categories of the framework. These were the objectives here. The first one was technology, and that's basically, here you can see an indicative workshop that we delivered in order to develop, to improve the general overview of digital technologies used for language learning, and to help our teachers get practical experience of applying selected technologies in practice. Our second objective was pedagogy. We aimed at improving the overview of the pedagogical instructional methods in computer-supported language teaching and getting practical experience with some of the methods. And this is another workshop that we used, and it targeted, among other things, to pedagogy and these specific learning objectives. The third learning objective was assessment. So we aimed at improving the knowledge of digital assessment methods and strategies. And we also wanted to help our teachers get practical experience with some of them via proposed activities applied in the language learning context. And in terms of content, we aimed at improving the ability to use and develop open digital language learning content and getting practical experience by participating in specific activities in which our teachers would create, elaborate, and share open digital language learning content. So we had this very interesting workshop on open educational practices and open educational resources. The professional development learning objective, basically, which under the umbrella of which we aimed at improving the knowledge of using digital tools for professional development, and also helping our teachers getting practical experience with some of them, such as communication, organization, and self-assessment. And finally, the last learning objective was learner support. So we tried to improve the knowledge of how to support their students in developing digital and IT soft skills, and also to get some practical experience by participating in related hands-on sessions. So basically, and I'm concluding, as I said before, the training workshop included of 12 training units. We completed the first round in March, and the second round was completed in October. And hopefully we will have like a third one and a multiplier event in the following December. And we would be very happy to have you with us. So some final conclusions. Acquiring digital competence is a multi-dimensional dynamic goal, multifaceted dynamic goal. Basically, the assessment framework aims at supporting language teachers by providing a self-reflection tool that outlines the thematic categories of knowledge and skills that they need to acquire in order to become digitally competent. And finally, these training workshops have confirmed that teachers need to develop digital skills and practice novel teaching methodologies. Thank you very much. On our final slide, you can see some details, our website, basically, in our social media. You can follow us and you can get more information about this project by visiting our website. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Alice. I would just like to underline that you can, as was mentioned by Alice, further information on the project website, on our social media channels, and even more for the webinar series which were mentioned by Alice. You will find almost all of them on YouTube, so they have been recorded and they are available on the project YouTube channel. So it is a further possibility for all the participants in this multiplier event to stay connected with the project and to be informed about the upcoming activities. About upcoming activities, I would like to invite Ekaterina for the last speech, which will be held directly here in presence. I will just upload a presentation. And I will leave the floor to Ekaterina, please.
Thanks a lot, Antonio. Really great to be here in Florence in person. So I'll try to be quick as there's not much time left, and I also hope to be able to run a really quick demo of immersive technologies for language learning to the end. So my name is Katerina Prasova-Furland. I'm a professor in the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. I am leading innovative immersive technologies for learning research group at lab, and immersive technologies are actually virtual and augmented reality. And I'm going to talk about my experience with teaching online in VR during the pandemic. I'm not teaching language, but our experience, I believe, are relevant for language teaching as well, because virtual reality has been using for language teaching on several occasions. So really quick to set the context about our lab. Our virtual reality lab at NTNU is a top modern and unique innovative learning area research facility where we focus on the 3Ds. We experiment and research on virtual and augmented reality apps for learning different subjects from math, language, climate change, history, and medicine in collaboration with different stakeholders in cross-disciplinary groups. We educate about virtual and augmented reality people who work with these technologies, and we also try to integrate these technologies to teaching at our university and schools. And we also invite people to explore these technologies by inviting schools, industry, public sector, and all interested to our lab, and we are running different events such as Innovation Days. This just shows very quickly a range of our apps we are developing, everything from VR for career guidance, climate change, mathematics, neurosurgeons, history, and mathematics for schools. And here is an example that is maybe most interesting for you. It's an app we have developed for language learning in VR. So it started as a project to support learning Norwegian as a second language across different distributed campuses of our university, where students wearing headsets could meet in different virtual environments such as a forest or a cafe across distances, and in safe environments where they could talk, practice Norwegian, where they could gather around the fire or around the tables in a cafe, where they could interact with different objects and explore how these objects are pronounced, how the pronunciation of these objects, such as a cake or a cup or a tent in Norwegian, and they could also place these objects spatially around these areas in order to kind of to practice, for example, prepositions. And so in this environment, it could really behave in a way they behave in real life. They could experience objects that are spatially placed in the same way as in reality. And during the pandemic, we made a different version of this application. It's a desktop version that doesn't require headsets, so that it could be used by teachers and learners all over the world. And we actually used this application during one of our European teacher training workshops that was mentioned during the former presentation. We made also an English version, where again you could have this example is from the Norwegian version, but the English one is similar. So you could have, you are in a cafe, you can look at different objects, you can interact with them, you can hear how they are pronounced. You can also assemble a dictionary. So this is something that we have been experimenting with, and but we've also been experimenting with different other virtual environments for learning. And now I'm going to talk about Mozilla Hubs, which is a kind of very easy accessible online virtual environment. And I'm going to talk about our experience with switching all our teaching to Mozilla Hubs during the pandemic. And again, our findings can be easily extrapolated to teaching languages, though my course is not about languages. So the motivation of this study was to reflect on actions during the pandemic and learn from how we switched to a different technology following very unexpected events. What we all experienced during the pandemic as we suddenly have to start using digital technologies very intensively for teaching, but this introduced several barriers and difficulties, such as lecture students didn't want to switch on their cameras. Many students felt isolated and they didn't feel very motivated and engaged. And we experienced that the use of browser-based VR could actually increase their motivation and engagement. And in general, we want to reflect on the post-COVID educational landscape, and we believe that hybrid learning and teaching will be the leading approach from now on. You said the context of the study. I was teaching a course called VR and AR for Learning and Training. I have been teaching this course for a number of years, and previously we already used VR for collaboration between different campuses of our university. So it was natural when lockdown was introduced in Norway in March 2020, we switched to online VR. Most of the other courses switched to Zoom or Blackboard Collaborate, but our course moved into Mozilla Hubs. And also in some cases, we also lended headsets to the students to use at home, but Mozilla Hubs could be actually used without any headsets. It's browser-based online VR that you can access by using any browser from computers or from even mobile devices. And to the end, we will give a very short demo of how this works. So here you see some examples from my course in Mozilla Hubs. This is a classroom that I created where students could gather for joint sessions, for attending lectures and joint discussions. But also all students, you can see here I share my video feed, and here this is our avatars of the students. I could run slideshow. But the students also created their own group rooms where they worked on their projects, where they had their group meetings, and where they could create very creative and innovative presentations of their projects by using visualizations. So they could talk by voice in these rooms, but they also could communicate by interacting with 3D objects. So for example, this is a house visualizing the project of this room, which is on exporter therapy in VR. The students have been extremely creative by when they demonstrated their final projects. They really use this visual means for showing off their ideas. Also, here is one of the examples of final presentations. Students also used these group rooms not just for course-related activities, but also for socializing and playing some quizzes on their spare time. And here it's an example how the students formed their group rooms with a theme related to their projects. For example, this was the project about crane simulation in VR, and the room is formed as the Trondheim harbor. Trondheim is the city where we are located. So you can just imagine the potentials for language learning. You can easily form a room, for example, as a cafe, as a, for example, if it is Firenze, if you want to study Italian, or Paris, or any other situation that you need to contextualize your language learning lessons. You can also have this room with objects that will support learning, for example, learning names of different objects. You can also place these objects spatially to support learning of prepositions and grammatical structures. And also you have the Readable Voice IP, where you can practice communicating communicative language skills in contextualized settings. And to assess students' experience using Mozilla Hubs, we did a survey, and I don't think we have much time left, so just kind of really, I don't think we look at this, just go directly to the conclusions. So generally, the students have been quite optimistic about use of VR for they're doing their coursework. So more than half of them wanted to use VR for their courses in near distant future. And well, generally, the students had some mixed comments about that. So the major point is it's a good idea to kind of combine different tools, traditional Zoom and VR, to create an enhanced learning experience. For example, you can use Zoom or Skype and Discord just kind of for talking and discussing. You can use VR for more creative and social activities where you really need some really contextualized settings. And what was interesting to see that people behave socially in VR in the same way they did in reality. You could kind of see that people place themselves in circles and the same way they used when communicating in reality. But there have been some problems with technical problems with lagging and the sound, and typically when the students were sitting in the dorms and they had the limited bandwidth and everybody was online. So we had experienced some technical issues. But students, they feel a greater feeling of togetherness in virtual reality than compared to traditional tools such as Zoom. So again, the message is to use a combination of different tools for depending on the student, increased student needs. Again, we are trying to move very quickly about that. So again, our experience showed that it's social VR, online VR could be used to enhance social interaction during the lessons, where students can really work on the creative project. They could create their own spaces where they kind of feel a greater sense of presence, where they feel a greater sense of belonging. And you could also associate learning goals with the customization of the virtual environments so that students get more motivated to be really creative in virtual environments. So imagine again in a learning lesson context, you ask students to create a virtual model of Firenze where you want to facilitate excursions where you can practice Italian and go to different parts of the city. And this way students can really unleash their creativity. At the same time, they can get more involved in the lessons, learning languages, and they could also have a greater sense of being together in a shared environment. We can believe that hybrid teaching and learning would be the new normal, and but it's we need to think of how we combine different tools, the traditional ones and more advanced such as virtual reality. And when we choose virtual reality, there is different solutions that we can choose from. Like Mozilla Hubs is kind of the low-hanging fruit, it's the easiest one, it's really accessible to everyone, but for more enhanced experience, it would be recommended to use headsets. If you have access to headsets, you can kind of get better graphics and more immersive experience. But it's also important to provide support for teachers and students to give them tutorials to kind of help them to use this technology. Because sometimes if it's people get into too many technical problems, they can just kind of stop by using this and be discouraged. And it also we believe that in the future, combining physical and virtual spaces again would be the preferred approach, where the physical spaces, like the physical classrooms, could kind of be merged with virtual classrooms that also could be created in a way that could support different learning goals. Again, here you are in a physical Firenze, you can go to the virtual Firenze, which is again shaped in the way to support your concrete learning objectives. Okay, so this is kind of really short my presentation, and I have two demos. One is for on-site participants. It's the original language learning app that where you can visit the virtual forest or cafe. Or for online participants, it's the learning area in Mozilla Hubs, specifically created for this V4T project, and you can access this by using this link. I believe Antonio shared this link in the chat, and also we can now just look at the browser. So now this is an example of an environment I created specifically for this event. This is I easily used one of the templates that are available here, one of the room templates. This example is a cafe. It's again the cafe is a metaphor of the user language learning. And here I have placed. So I'm here. And I'm an avatar. I'm. If you want to see how I look like, this is how I look like. And I just put some resources here, so you see I put a version of the slideshow here. It's a PDF file that I can I can look through. So this is a PDF, and here it's a YouTube video from one of our webinars. I can play this.
Organizing this week and all next week. This webinar is organized by.
So again, and then I can. Well, if somebody if you want to join this, you're welcome to do so either now or later. I believe Antonio will share the link. You can go there. You can make your own avatar. You can download objects. You can walk around, and if anybody of you just joins me right away here, so you can do that. So basically, several avatars can join in this area, and we can imagine that we are having cocktail party or something, and we can kind of talk about things that we normally do when we are in a cafe. Okay, so it's basically like a very short demo of our experience, and I'm the time is up, and I would be happy to answer some questions, or I would be happy to answer questions if you contact me later. So there is contact information for me in the conference materials.
Anyway, there is a question from the audience.
I'm Louisa Paniki from the University of Pisa. I was leader of 2 European projects which looked at virtual reality for language learning and other subjects. The first one was called Avalon Learning.
I've heard of it.
You've heard, and the second one is University Network. Okay. And one of our colleagues is Judith Malta.
Yes, I know.
You know Judith? Okay, good. So I'm just wondering whether when you come to reporting of the project, if somehow there could be a link as sort of see your work as a continuum of what was started with Avalon and then University Network, perhaps.
Well, definitely with Avalon, I know about this project. I collaborate with Judith on a number of projects, not just language learning, but all other different subjects. So, Judith and Avalon was done in Second Life, and I worked with Second Life for many years as well. So I was greatly inspired by our activity there. So Second Life was kind of the first major example of online desktop-based VR. What we later did with this language app, and also what we did with the Hub, it was kind of inspired by our experiences from Second Life. And it's actually in our webinar on immersive technologies for language learning, we talk about Second Life and experiences from using this medium for language learning. Because there's a lot of projects where actually it was used for on Second Life, and similar will also be used for language learning. Typically, when you are again do some role play in a contextualized virtual environment.
Thank you. My question is, how easily can this be adopted by other players? What is the minimum we have to invest in terms of technology? Do we all need the glasses, this virtual reality equipment, or what would be the minimum?
Well, for Mozilla Hubs, it's really low-hanging fruit. So basically, you just go to the, go online to Mozilla Hubs, and you just you can choose between different group templates. For example, it's a cafe, it's one of the business templates, and you just you are there. You just put in objects. So you can. I'm not finding something that I'm not able to put in objects right now, but it's like a really copy paste. You can just just copy a web link inside, and you have like for example, a video inside. You can download all kind of objects. So it's really, and with online VR, you can either use it in desktop modes, such as I'm using now, you can use it with headsets. So you can do both. So you don't have to do anything in particular to use this. You just use it right away.
And do you get it right that some people can have virtual reality on their head? How do you call this device actually?
Headsets or VR headsets.
Yeah, and some of them can do without it.
Yeah, so again, for example, Mozilla Hubs, you can either access them just from your laptop and just being avatar that you kind of move around by keyboard, or you can put on a headset and enter the same room, also with an avatar, then you may walk around again by using your controllers VR. So you can do it in both ways.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see if there is any question from the online participants. This question was, how digital competence level of language learns to be raised? It's maybe if Alice and Maria are still there. I don't know if this participant is still there. Okay. Alice.
Hello again. Yes, I am still here. I'm not sure to whom this question is addressed. Perhaps the participant would like to clarify.
We are all here.
User,
I think, Antonio, this was a question that I saw before we start our presentation. So it was addressed to you when you started your presentation, I think. But with our presentation, we just gave the reply. So I don't know if you...
There was also a question from the audience, from the side participants. They said, okay, by the next presentation, maybe we will reply to your question. Anyway, the user is still typing. But we think that we replied to all the questions during our first speaker. That was me. And again, I think that during the presentation by Maria and Ellie, we replied to your question. If not, please let us know. And I will take advantage from Maria and Alice to reply to these specific questions because they are much more experienced than me on the matter. Okay, no reply. So in any case, if you have question, you will find all our contacts on the DC4LT website. So you can also write to us and all doubts that you still have about the project. And again, you can be informed about our upcoming activities. I would like, yes.
Antonio, if you want, I can say at least one sentence regarding this. What we did with the digital assessment framework and what our framework proposes is a holistic skill sets perspective which includes a variety of skills which are related not only to the efficient use of digital tools and their integration in the teaching process, but also to the right use of tools and methods for assessment, digital content creation and sharing, teachers' professional development, and learner support. This is what we said in few, let's say, in one sentence. So it is not about only technology, but it's about how to use it. It's about methodology that we need to, to know and to apply and to explore in order to sufficiently implement technologies in our language classrooms. But it's not only one, it's a set of skills and knowledge. This is what we proposed. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Maria. And I would like to thank all the colleagues and friends from the DC4LT project who supported me and helped me within this multiplayer event. I would like to thank all the on-site and online participants. And we can officially close the conference. And thanks again. Bye.
And very few until the end.
Nice. Right? That's what I was thinking. don't risk to get drunk at the end, because we saw that in your cafe, which was really interesting. Thanks a lot. I think that now you can enjoy Florence from the reality.
It's really engaging for the students.
Yeah, the students really said that other students who didn't do the reflection and the task.
Yeah, yes.
So goodbye now.
Bye bye, thank you for coming, thank you. Very knowledgeable. This is really knowledgeable. So what are your plans for the night and tomorrow?
Well, I kind of tonight I'm just thinking